new and have never been to our meetings, would you raise your hand just so we can see if we have new people here? We have new people. You know, it's very important to have new people. I'm sure that our membership chair, Ann Owen, was chatting you up as you came in. Normally we go around to find out why people came and so on, but we're really pressed for time tonight. So we're not going to do that, but just know that we really value our new members. So if you have any questions or any concerns, look at your agenda. And on the agenda is a list of committee chairs and their emails, and you can get in touch with them and ask any questions you want, okay? I don't know about you guys, but it's been what I would say is one hell of a week. You know, just about the time we thought only thing we had to worry about was Ukraine. Now we have 2 wars to worry about. And a couple times this week I found myself turning off the TV because I said to myself, I just couldn't take anymore. You know, especially when they tell you the pictures are going to not be good, and then they tell you verbally what's in the pictures. Yeah. So then you put that picture in your head anyway. Oh, please. So I thought it would be nice if we just took a moment of silence to think about what's happening and send whatever good vibes we can to those who are suffering in the Middle East and in the Ukraine. So please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you, Democrats. I know it's hard to be quiet. Okay, so we're going to do a little activity at your tables tonight. And there she is, Sarah Bird, postcard lady. Go ahead, Sarah, tell them what to do.
This on?
I know.
No. Oh. This is on?
Yeah. No.
Yes, okay. We're writing postcards to support Nancy Watkins. She's running for OC School Board in Area 3. We're sending to, is it San Diego Canyon and Trabuco Canyon, Democrats. At the table, you have a box that has cards, which already have addresses on them. We have colored markers. You can use those, or you have pens. There are stickers. You can use those or not. You try to keep the address part clear for the post office. When the cards are done, stick it in the white box basket, and there's scripts on top, little short scripts. There's 2 choices. We're real specific on our scripts this time because we want to make sure we have Nancy Watkins, make it clear. Anyway, I'm going to be walking around if you have questions. It's a voluntary thing. If you really don't want to write, just come up with ideas and how to
Help the other people.
Right. Help the other
pass
people.
out the color pens and go to work on it. And there's pictures of ones we've done before. We will be dropping these cards directly at the homes of voters. We're mailing them. We're mailing them. Right. Okay. And so we need you all to take 15 minutes and write a postcard.
Right now?
Right now.
Just real quick, if there's a problem with a postcard, if you like, mess it up.
There's a script to follow. There's cards to write on.
Excuse me, everybody, for a minute. If you mess up a card, go ahead and cross out the message and put it in the white basket too, because I'll use that address to make a new card.
Okay, so somebody take charge of each table. And each one will pass down.
Yeah. Use, there's two scripts. I got, you use life script. I can go through. Yeah.
In the box, there are pens, there's colored pens. No, the cards already have addresses on them. You can say your, you can put your name on it if it says it's addressed to Louis, after you can get your one. Sure, good idea. No, you don't get that.
You don't even have to, just. You know. And then after a while. Then you get. But it wasn't. Yeah.
I'm so mad. No, they go in the white basket, and then everything else will go. No big deal. Yeah. Yeah, you know what, whatever they get done, I'm sure they like, but don't, they just want to look, you know, oh, I think. Down, yeah. But just put everything out there. A lot of postcards for the general election, those things will be able to. Yeah. You know what? One, that's it. We're happy. Right.
Okay.
The agenda, we can move along rather quickly. Okay, part of the agenda is the treasurer's report. We're doing very, very well. We are now have at the end of last month, $23,958. I'm looking at my inbox. Yeah, tell him he's got it at my.
You could forward it to her from there.
That doesn't tell me that's on her phone. He put it, he did it as a text message, not an, I told him to do it as an email.
Huh? I can't. It's the guy that you.
I thought you were emailing me, and put it in a text, so, I don't have one. I don't have a way to handle it. Okay, okay, so hold on a minute. I need Can you send the link to Ellen on that phone that you emailed her? Well, then it doesn't do any good in my communication. I'm honest, I just don't. I'm completely
There it is.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I don't know why.
Don't make it.
You guys see me?
They can hear you. Okay, Ellen, if you want to stand up, you can send him a picture of the room so he knows how many people are here.
Can you make that?
Your camera's turned off at the moment.
Yeah, I don't, they don't need to see me. Did you hit record? Yeah.
No, can you guys see me?
Yeah. Can you make it full screen?
Yeah, I'm gonna work on making it full screen here.
She knows.
Recording in progress.
To the cloud as requested.
Okay. I'm gotta fix this. One last thing.
Yeah, you gotta hit it. Well, if only I had a 14-year-old here, this would be so much easier. There are problems with getting 14-year-olds though, so probably okay on balance.
Honey, I know what I'm doing, believe it or not. And now I lost it.
Hit lunch meeting again, it'll go. Yeah, open. Hit the one on the top that says open Zoom meeting.
He's back.
He's back.
Okay, you don't need that. Yeah, except on that, you don't need to log in.
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't have to do-
See, this is what happens when we have multiple people trying to give me advice. Ed, we don't have you yet.
Can you see me?
No.
You can get me.
There.
No, don't leave the meeting. Just click on the other screen.
No, click on file.
That's it. And then make it. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm trying to get rid of this weird thing I've got in the middle.
Yeah.
Don't-
All right.
Okay, Ed, it's all yours. Oh, and let me introduce Ed. Okay.
You can see me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to see you, but this is Helen. Let me tell the people all about you.
Okay.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, all the confusion was well worth it. You're in for a treat. So please enjoy all the information, take in all the information that Ed is going to give to you. At this point, this is Dr. Ed Weisbart, and I would like to thank you, Dr. Ed, for accepting our invitation to speak to us and offer a thoughtful analysis of what's going on with Medicare. Tonight's program is titled, "Let's Reclaim Our Medicare from the Profiteers. They're hiding in plain sight." Many of you may have seen them on TV the last couple of days. They're all over, you can't turn it on, there they are. Dr. Weisbart is an expert in the field and is the National Board Secretary and Missouri Chapter Chair of Physicians for a National Health Program, PNHP. It is a nonpartisan organization of more than 25,000 physicians and healthcare advocates advocating for universal, comprehensive, single-payer healthcare programs. He received his medical degrees at the University of Illinois and completed his family medicine education at Michigan State University. He practiced family medicine for 20 years. From 2004 to 2021, he volunteered as an assistant professor of clinical medicine at Washington University in St. Louis. Dr. Weisberg is a national leader in the campaign for health care justice. He is constantly fighting to reclaim as the truly public health program that it was intended to be when it was first initiated. He educates us. A physician, a doctor means educator. So he educates us. He demystifies the differences between traditional Medicare and Medicare Advantage. He writes, gives video presentations, challenges public policy, and stays on top of all issues and attacks pertaining to Medicare. He is intent on fixing the system. And if all this isn't enough, he challenged, do you know who this person might be? Is walking into the Senate on January 6th.
Josh Hawley.
He challenged Josh Hawley for the seat, for the senatorial seat from the state of Missouri. So let's give Dr. Weisbart.
I would love to challenge Senator Josh Hawley on the seat, but I'm not crazy enough to consider running for legislative office, elective office. But yeah, I am in Josh Hawley's district. It's a crazy state. I was thinking about that when I was thinking about talking to y'all. My understanding of your geography is that it's very much like Missouri. Missouri, well, time to start. I'll leave those empty things away. So tonight we're going to talk a bit about a little bit about what Medicare, how Medicare Advantage is not Medicare. We'll kind of explain the difference between Medicare Advantage and Medicare, because Medicare Advantage, in my mind, is really a very aggressive and frankly successful corporate takeover of our public health program. And there's some things about it that I don't think are adequately recognized. So we'll kind of talk about that quite a bit. And then at the end, we'll talk a bit about this new study that my group, Physicians for a National Health Plan, just released after several months of working on it. That I think puts a newly and previously underappreciated context of what we could be doing if we weren't letting Medicare Advantage corporations take advantage of us like is happening today. So, and then I've got a few sort of suggestions for calls to action that y'all might want to consider doing as Kenyan Dems. So is that kind of what you were expecting? I can't hear y'all, so I'm going to assume that it is. Let me start, if I could, by figuring out how to share my screen on this. Hang on for just a second. And there we go. Okay. I think you can see my screen. Yes?
Yeah.
Hearing no complaints, so I'll assume that you can. So that's what we were planning on talking about. But maybe to start, let me show you a little bit about just one of the gazillion things in my life that got me focused on this, and that's my beautiful mother-in-law. So, and really the only reason I like talking about these things is I just like putting a picture of my spectacular mother-in-law, and there she is. And in case you're a little worried about this, I have Ma's permission to tell you the story that I'll tell you. So I live in St. Louis. Ma lives in Daytona Beach, Florida. She has traditional Medicare and Medigap. She got it before Medicare Advantage existed, and she has stayed with it. So hooray! She has traditional Medicare and Medigap, and because of that, she can go anywhere in the country that she wants to get health care. So you'll see in a few moments why it's so important. She does that without needing to get permission, and she doesn't need to pay anything out of pocket. As it happens, this is really important. Ma has a heart problem, a genetic heart problem, one of these uncommon things called hokum, if you care, that doesn't show up until an advanced age in her case. So in her 80s, she developed this thing, and it got pretty severe in her heart and needed to be treated, or she wouldn't have made it through, frankly. So it turns out that this being an uncommon thing in someone in her age group, that there is literally nobody in Florida with any experience treating this. So we bundled her up and flew her to St. Louis, where it happens. St. Louis is one of the 3 places in the United States that has a dedicated team focused on treating her condition. So we brought her here. She got treated. She spent, I think, 5 days in the hospital, as I recall. Spent a few weeks sort of in our house, kind of recovering, and then went back home. And this was, I don't know, almost 10 years ago now. And she has done great. she's done great. She's had 2 orthopedic procedures since then. She's thriving in Florida at age 94. So, right. So she could come here. I'm the guy who had personally had to manage sort of the logistics, and I never called Medicare for permission. Never had to get prior approval. She came here and had all this world-class stuff done, probably a bill of roughly $100,000, I would guess. She didn't have to pay anything out of pocket. She went back home and never got a surprise bill. You know, that's one of the plagues we have in healthcare these days. She never got any bills later. And she, you know, she's had it since, well, for a long time now. And she trusts that it'll be there for her for the rest of her life. So if you're thinking about doing something to Medicare that would mess it up, you have to deal with this version. We have, and you don't want to, believe me. So we don't want anything to happen to it, is my take. So just to make this clear, I'm talking about right now, she has traditional Medicare, and I use that phrase selectively, traditional. Some people call it original Medicare, and those are frankly synonyms. If you're confused, you hear some people say traditional Medicare and some people say original Medicare. Those are the same exact things, so don't be confused by that. And they both refer to the tradition that was established in 1965 when Medicare was created, and it was created for reasons. It was created in 2 parts: Medicare Part A that does hospital work, and Medicare Part B that does outpatient stuff. So basically 2 parts, Medicare Parts A and B, and it's pretty simple. So there's all of us on the left, and we pay our taxes, and we get our traditional Medicare card, and then Medicare directly pays doctors and hospitals on our behalf. It's almost that simple, a little more complicated, but almost that simple. That's traditional Medicare, and frankly, not the topic for tonight's discussion. Tonight, we're talking about Medicare Advantage, which is really neither Medicare nor an advantage. Unless you happen to be the insurance company, then it's a great advantage. But other than that, for most of us, it's really not an advantage. So the way it works is we still, you know, pay our taxes to the government, but we no longer get our red, white, and blue card. Instead, the federal government pays the insurance companies, very much the same insurance companies that do employer-related, work-related insurance. So the government pays insurance companies on our behalf, prepays them a certain dollar amount for every one of us that are in their program. And then the insurance companies take as little of that prepaid money as they can. We know once they're prepaid, they don't want to let go of it, but they take as little of it as they can. And with that, they then pay doctors and hospitals on our behalf. So that's the game, right? They're prepaid, and they're supposed to pay for our health care. And you know, every time they do pay for their health care, for our health care, that's less profit for them. So they don't want to. It's not even quite as simple as I drew this cartoon, because of course they don't let you go to just any doctor or hospital. No, they have their preferences. So they say to us, oh, you can go to this doctor and not that doctor, or this hospital and not that hospital. So if you think of it the way I do, we're paying the insurance companies to tell us which doctors and hospitals we can't use. Why would we pay them to do that? So that's kind of the game of what they have. And like I said, MA or Medicare Advantage is really not Medicare. With traditional Medicare, you can go to almost any doctor in the hospital, I think, in the country. You know, if you live in California, but you spend 4 months in Maine, chances are you can see almost any doctor in Maine for any kind of care. If you have anything but traditional Medicare, that's probably not the case. And with most other insurances, and certainly with Medicare Advantage, getting healthcare outside of your region or outside of their region is considered out of network, and they may not pay for it all, or they may, depending on the policy, they may just pay for a tiny portion of it. But there's these networks in Medicare Advantage that traditional Medicare really doesn't have. Medicare Advantage also, because they don't want to let go of the money that they're prepaid, uses all the kinds of tools that we've all grown accustomed to and learned to despise, like prior authorizations, having to get permission. You know, you go to order a test or get a test or something, and the lab says it'll take a week before we can get the approval from your insurance company. the insurance company that we're paying to pay for our care. So they do all those kinds of rules. Those things don't happen in traditional Medicare. I think there's 6 cosmetic procedures or something like that in traditional Medicare that are prior authorized, but virtually everything of any financial value in Medicare Advantage goes through this. So because of the way their business model is set up, if you're actually sick, they don't want you, because that means that you're gonna cost more than what they're being paid for the average person. But if you're extra healthy, then they really want you, because you're probably not gonna cost them much. So that again is their business model. Doing these kinds of things introduces all sorts of overhead that you don't have in regular Medicare, which I'll show you in a minute. And of course, they're profit centric. That's who they're responsible for. And they're using these monies that they're taking could be used in better ways. You've probably run into this. We this year crossed the threshold. We're now literally a majority, 51% of people in Medicare are no longer in Medicare. They're in now one of these MA outfits. And this is ominous, of course, now that they have more than half of people, but I'm pointing it out to you for another reason. So I've had the luxury, the opportunity to speak to a load of people in Congress and or their staff members, and I consistently hear this. I consistently hear when we hear our criticisms and concerns about Medicare Advantage or Medicare Disadvantage, when they hear that stuff, they say, well, you know, if it's really so, you know, awful, well, we're just, you know, it's a free market here in the United States of America. And the market has spoken. Seniors and people with disability are voting for it. They're joining it. It's now a majority. How dare you say there's something wrong with it? You know, what are you missing here? So this is important. We want to explain why it is that this looks like this. But I think Don Berwick explains it the best. He's one of my personal heroes, the smartest people in the world in my mind. And he is a former head of Medicare. And in a variety of other things. And he looked at those numbers and he said, well, if an ice cream firm could offer ice cream for free because of a subsidy, well, its market share will grow as Medicare Advantage market share is growing. Its market share will grow against firms that charge for their ice cream. It's not because they have better ice cream, it's because they have free ice cream. And that is going to be the point of the report at the end that I'm going to unpack with you. It's not that Medicare Advantage is growing, not because it's better. Indeed, I argue that it's inferior, but because it's getting corporate welfare. It's free. They're very expensive to operate. If you just look at their overhead, any of my charts that have numbers on them, as this one does, will have footnotes in the bottom slide there that are too small for you to read. But if you need to, you know, we can look really closely there and I can read it for you. Or, you know, you can have access to these slides if you want. You can get the sources later, but they're all public domain, kind of peer reviewed things. This particular set of data is from the SEC filings. So the insurance companies have just overhead and profit, or the percentage of their revenue that they don't spend on healthcare. Let's call that about 15% overhead and profit. Money that they take in that they don't spend on healthcare, 15%. Is that a lot? I don't know. Well, it turns out if you look at traditional Medicare, again, parts A and B, that operates with a 2% overhead, and of course, no profit, a 2% overhead. And it's not magic, right? The insurance companies, you know, have things that they do that traditional Medicare doesn't need to do. The insurance companies have to pay for the ads on TV. They have sales forces and marketing, and they have to pay commissions to the brokers, and they have, you know, massive insurance systems information systems so that they can intrude in our care. They have massive call centers from people that say, no, I'm sorry, you can't have that. No, I'm sorry, you can't have that. No, you can't have that either. You know, those are all people and functions that traditional Medicare has no use for. They don't do that stuff. So, you know, it's not magic that their overhead is so high. And they make quite a bit of money off of Medicare Advantage specifically. So if you look at how much money insurance companies make off of these other types of health insurance, what, $700-800 or so per person per year. But Medicare Advantage is dramatically higher. They make more than twice as much. The insurance companies make more than twice as much for a Medicare Advantage person that they sign up than they do for somebody in Medicaid or somebody through employer-based insurance or somebody who buys insurance on the marketplace. Medicare Advantage companies see Medicare Advantage as a big corporate moneymaker. And we're seeing consequences of that. So Humana earlier this year announced that they're no longer going to be selling employer group type insurance, and they're just following the money. They said it is in line, here's the direct quote from their CEO. They said, he said, it is in line with our company's business strategy to focus our health plan offerings primarily on government-funded programs, Medicare and Medicaid. So they're just totally getting out of the business. And that's the direct quote from a few months ago from their CEO, who makes $17 million made $17 million last year. And I guess he's finally developed enough money that he's retiring in January next year. So good for you, Bruce Broussard. They do this work, they make this money in part by delaying and denying our ability to get healthcare. They delay and deny left and right. Again, this doesn't happen in traditional Medicare, but all of these things that I put on this list, along with a whole host of other things, injectable medications and all kinds of other things, require prior authorizations or approval in almost every plan if you want to get them. Again, this is unique to Medicare Advantage and not to the rest of Medicare. And as a result of these delays and denials, their hospital networks are collapsing. You know, like Colony collapsed this quarter. The MA hospitals are collapsing, and some of these are hospitals that you may have been personally relying on. These hospitals have all been announcing that they're pulling out of Medicare Advantage, not Medicare, but Medicare Advantage. And for the same basic reason, Scripps is saying it's not all just rates. It's not that they're not getting paid enough. It's this other stuff. It's that they manage companies play these games of denials and delays in care and not paying for care even. And in Georgia, they say it's from unreasonable denials. In Oklahoma, it's because of this incredible rate of denials. So they get in the way of us and they get in the way of hospitals, and hospitals are pulling out. That means if you live in a rural area where there's one hospital in your community and you sign up for a Medicare Advantage, and that hospital pulls out for some reason, you may have to travel an unbearably long distance to get to a hospital, or even in a non-rural area. This is a disaster when this happens. So people vote with their feet when they really see what's going on, and you know, most of us generally are healthy, but most of us tend to be at our sickest, obviously, the last year of our life. And it's that last year of our life when these barriers become really onerous. And so we find that before the last year of life, less than 2% of people in the MA plans try to switch back to traditional Medicare. But in their last year of life, it's more than twice as many. They want to get out of Medicare Advantage when they're really sick, and all saying for the same reason, that the biggest reason is that they can't get access to health care under Medicare Advantage. And it's all sorts of health care. You know, one of the things you'll see on the TV during this open enrollment season is that, you know, well, sign up for a Medicare Advantage. You can have dental. You're not getting your full Medicare benefits. You don't get dental from us. Well, first of all, it's a really crummy dental. It pays for, at best, maybe 2 tooth cleanings. It doesn't, or two dental cleanings. It doesn't pay for anything, you know, expensive that you might need. But can you at least get more dental care? Well, people in traditional Medicare, a quarter of people in traditional Medicare, despite having Medicare, which of course doesn't pay for dental care, despite having that, a quarter of people in traditional Medicare say that they can't access dental care because of the cost. And remember, many people are signing up for Medicare Advantage for the promise of being able to access dental care. Turns out more people in Medicare Advantage have financial barriers to dental care than people in traditional Medicare. It's not solving the problem. Now, the people in traditional Medicare, as I'll show you in a few minutes, tend to be a little bit wealthier, not quite as low income, so that's why they have fewer problems. But I'm here to tell you, this data shows that joining Medicare Advantage does not mean that you can afford access to dental care, no matter what the ads on TV say. And in fact, they have all sorts of barriers to care. If you just ask in general about barriers to care, people in Medicare Advantage have more barriers than people in traditional Medicare. If you look specifically, I mentioned the income issue with dentistry. If you look specifically at low income people, it's a worse problem in Medicare Advantage than it is in traditional Medicare. Low income folks in Medicare Advantage have worse problems accessing care for cost reasons than do people in traditional Medicare. So despite that, it's also a racial thing. If you're across the board in the United States, people with Medicare Advantage have more trouble accessing care for cost. Guess what? It's not as striking for white Americans. Still, Medicare Advantage is worse than traditional Medicare, but the numbers are a little lower for whites. Its numbers are higher among Hispanics, and the numbers are even more egregious when you look at African Americans. So this is trouble, because one of the things we're hearing from Congress and congressional staffers when we meet with them is that, well, we're telling them the problems with Medicare Advantage. We've heard over and over again, well, the MA corporations are coming and talking to Congress and claiming, no, don't attack us. We are the solution to equity. We are the solution to equity, because indeed there are higher percentage of African Americans and higher percentage of lower income Americans in Medicare Advantage. So they say that they are the solution, but that's really not they're really not the solution. The reason those groups are going there is because it's all they can afford to get. And frankly, this is evidence that they're getting trapped and shifted into inferior health insurance. So the Senate looked at some of the issues around this and looked at the way that MA firms market themselves. And this was just late last year. They said that deceptive marketing practices, like we're seeing on TV right now, flourish in MA plans. Here's one of my favorites out of the Senate report. You know, you get a thing like this in the mail and you think, oh dear, this is one of those tax forms. Better pay attention. You know, no Al Capone for me. I'll pay attention. So you look at this and you fill it out, you send it in, and you know, you don't realize that this is not from the federal government. The United States government did not send this out to you. No, the for-profit Medicare Advantage insurance companies did, and you fill this out with your information, and voila, you're signing up for Medicare Advantage, not even knowing it. And they do all kinds of stuff like this. They put booths outside of the grocery store and they corner you and say, hey, are you getting the dental care you need from Medicare? Are you getting your this, that, your glasses? You know, do you want all that covered by Medicare Advantage? They corner you in. They say, well, yeah, it's just, you know, fill this out. You'll have Medicare that gives you all that stuff. And that's just a lie. But you've signed it, you filled it out. You won't realize that you're now not in Medicare until you go to make your next appointment with a doctor and find out that, oh, you don't take my Medicare, you don't have Medicare, you have Medicare Advantage. No, I'm not in that network. I didn't do anything, and then you think back, oh yeah, that thing at the grocery store. Oh yeah, I got that form. So they're tricking us. And where do we turn for advice? Well, about a third of us looking at how to pick our insurance every year, about a third of us turn to an insurance agent. And I'm here to tell you, there are some very reputable insurance agents, but follow the money and look at what goes on. You know, most insurance agents, you go to talk to them about this, will say, oh, I sell all the insurances. I don't care. You know, you want to buy Humana, you want ARP, you want this, you want that, you want Medigap. I sell all that stuff. I don't care. I'm agnostic. I say, I've heard them say that over and over. I'm agnostic. I'll sell you whatever you need. So let's sit down and talk about what you need. Well, that's just lovely, isn't it? What they don't tell you is this. They make a commission. You probably knew they made a commission. But they make a commission for selling you Medicare Advantage, and the number for this year is another couple $100 higher, I think. Medigap, they can sell you Medigap and they don't get anywhere near the same commission. It's now roughly twice as much. The commission for Medicare Advantage is roughly twice as much as it is. So they don't want to sell you Medigap. You know, they sell you this policy and they get this commission, and then every year they get another commission as long as you don't switch. It goes down to about half of this, but they get a commission every year. It's a gift that keeps giving. But if you ask them about a drug benefit, about Medicare Part B, they'll tell you, oh yeah, no, you know, just go to Medicare.gov and look it up. It's, you know, it's a really nice website for this. Just go to Medicare.gov, look it up, and you can figure that part out on your own. That's actually also true of Medigap. As long as somebody tells you just go to Medicare.gov, tell it you want Medigap and look for Plan G, That's the one you want probably. Look for Plan G, go to Medigap and pick out your plan. And you can do the shopping on your own. So the insurance brokers tell you can do that for Medicare Part D because they don't make a commission. They don't tell you that about Medigap because they don't want it, because they want to get their hands on you and move you from thinking about Medigap into Medicare Advantage. And that's just not the way it should be. They should have to disclose that. And they're really not reliable with the stuff they tell you. Medicare, CMS stands for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, could be 2 M's, but it's not. But it's CMS. When you'll see me put CMS on our slides instead of writing down Medicare. Anyway, Medicare, CMS, last year did some secret shopper calls where they called a bunch of brokers and agents and pretended to be shopping for a Medicare plan. And said, hey, tell me about this. And it turns out 80% of the calls, 80%, almost all of the calls were either inaccurate or grossly insufficient. And one of my favorites, because it's just like so incredibly not true, from the Senate Finance Report was this. They said, hey, is my drug on the formulary for the Medicare Advantage plan? And the agent said, oh, if your drug's not on formulary, don't worry your pretty little head about that. Your doctor could just call the plan and the plan will just add it. Have any of you ever tried to do that? I can't see you, but if I were a person, I'd say, raise your hand if you've ever tried to do that and it works. I've asked that question to physicians and we all just start laughing because of course that's not how it works. They're lying to you when they say that. So I just kind of belabored how awful I think there are some problems with Medicare Advantage. So why would anybody do that? Well, because they got to do something. They got to do something. Traditional Medicare is imperfect. It has a 20% outpatient co-insurance. So if you're going to go to that means you pay 20% of the Medicare fee schedule. So if you have one doctor visit a year and that's $100 visit for Medicare, you pay $20 a year. Now it's okay, it's okay. But if you're sick, if you have something going on and nobody gets out alive, we all have something. You're gonna have something going on, and at that point, you will have to make possibly 2 or 3 doctor visits a week. And those $20 and $20 and $20, that becomes pretty expensive. So 20% outpatient co-insurance can bankrupt you. And that's not it. Then beyond that, this year it's going up next year. This year it's $1,600 every time you need to go in the hospital. That's bankruptcy by itself for a lot of people. And then, if you are sick, with something, you might be hospitalized sometimes 2, 3, or more times a year. Riddle me this, how are you going to pay for that? And in traditional Medicare, there's no limit to how much this adds up to. It's the sky's the limit on these things. And so, you got to pay, in traditional Medicare, you pay, like I said, a premium for Medicare Part B. And if you want a drug benefit, you got to pay a premium for Medicare Part D. And then you have to pay a premium if you want to solve these problems and get a Medigap plan, which we'll talk about more momentarily. So you have 3 options before you when you're in Medicare. First is you could just hang on to your traditional Medicare and ignore everything else that I've been saying. And do nothing else, and then you're at significant risk of bankruptcy when you get sick. You could leave Medicare and go into Advantage with all the flaws that I was pointing out to you, or you could keep Medicare and try to purchase Medigap. Medigap is, as I've been hinting at, essentially takes away the co-pays and co-insurance and all that nonsense after you pay about a $200 deductible. So Medigap, I'm calling it Medigap. Again, a synonym is Medicare supplemental, same exact thing, or some people call it Medicare wrap, because it wraps around. So those are 3 synonyms: Medigap, Medicare supplemental, and Medicare wrap. Those are the same things, and there's a few of those choices on Medicare.gov, but I usually think of it as Medicare Part G. So anyway, those are your choices. Do nothing, go into Advantage, or buy Medigap. But here's the trick. Here's the key. Here's the reason that I'm going into this little rabbit hole with you. When the Affordable Care Act was passed, or before it was passed, we were all up in arms about pre-existing conditions, that if you go to buy an insurance policy, the insurance company will ask you a million questions about your health. They can look in your medical records. And if they find that you've got any kind of a medical illness, a condition, you've got hypertension, you've got cancer, you've got diabetes, you got anything, they can say, oh yeah, no, we're not going to sell you an insurance policy because you're sick. Why would an insurance company want somebody who is sick? So the Affordable Care Act outlawed that. Great, you probably know that. The Affordable Care Act said if you go to buy insurance on the federal marketplace, they can't not sell you a policy because you're sick. This idea of pre-existing conditions as a knockout for being able to buy insurance was ended by the Affordable Care Act. So we all think it's over, hooray, thank you. So what we don't know, what people don't know is that super feature of the Affordable Care Act doesn't apply to Medicare. It doesn't apply to Medicare. Pre-existing conditions are alive and healthy in Medicare. So Medicare has its own set of rules or laws that say that a Medicare supplemental policy, Medigap, is required to sell you a policy, so no pre-existing conditions, for the first 6 months that you're in Medicare, or B, traditional Medicare, or 12 months if you go into Medicare Advantage. So if you're in Medicare Advantage for more than 12 months, and you decide that, well, gee, they don't let me go to my hospital, or gee, they don't let me go to the doctor that I want, or gee, they're making me get permission for my chemotherapy for crying out loud. I don't want that. And I heard that in traditional Medicare, you don't have that. I'm getting out of Medicare Advantage and I'm going back to traditional Medicare and I'll buy one of those Medigap policies. Well, not so fast, buddy. If you've been in Medicare Advantage for more than 12 months, the Medigap policies are no longer required to sell you a policy. They're no longer, you're no longer exempted from pre-existing conditions, which is exactly when you would want to do that if you were leaving Medicare Advantage. So you're in Medicare Advantage for more than 12 months, you start running into these problems because you're no longer 65, now you're 69, and you want to get out. You may or may not be able to purchase a Medigap policy. There are 4 states, not California, that have changed that and have said, yeah, we're going to guarantee that they can give it to you. And if you're lucky enough to get them to sell you a policy, they're also not obliged to sell it to you at the community rate. The first 12 months that you're in, first 6 months in Medicare or 12 months in Medicare Advantage, not only are they required to sell you a policy, but they're required to sell you a policy at the same rate they would sell it to anybody of your age group and whether or not you smoke, basically in your geography. But after that, if they do manage to sell you a policy, they can sell it to you at really whatever price they want. So after 12 months, yes, you can leave Medicare Advantage and go back to your traditional Medicare. But if you can't buy a Medigap policy, you're really trapped in Medicare Advantage. And I know very few people who know this. One little quirk that I discovered was that you can trigger another window where they're required to sell you a policy. You can trigger guaranteed issues, what that's called. You can trigger it again if you move out of their service area. So if you move away from the area that your Medicare Advantage plan sells policies or covers people in, you can actually be guaranteed to get a Medigap plan again. So there are insurance brokers that actually recommend in extreme cases, if you really can't get the healthcare you need in Medicare Advantage and you can't purchase Medigap because you've been there too long, there are some brokers who occasionally will recommend sell your house, move. You have to actually move. You can't just get a new mailing address. You have to actually move because they check on that. So let's kind of make this a sort of a side-by-side comparison of Medigap using Plan G. There's a couple of other choices, but we use Plan G versus Medicare Advantage. So Medigap, doesn't add anything to the benefit design. It doesn't add hearing or vision or dental or anything. It's no additional benefits beyond traditional Medicare. And Medicare Advantage often does include these other things, hearing, vision, dental, gym clubs, benefits that are designed to attract healthier people. But remember, I said that they want healthier people who cost less. They're paid on the average in general, and they want to be paid people who cost less. But Medigap will eliminate most out-of-pocket expenses after you pay the deductible, and Medicare Advantage doesn't do that. Medicare Advantage next year has up to an $8,800 maximum charge that you have to pay for in-network services, and then an even higher number, 12,000 or something for out of their network care. Utilization management, prior authorizations and stuff that never happens just about in regular Medicare. Medigap doesn't start doing those, it doesn't create them, and it's rampant in Medicare Advantage. Medigap doesn't change your networks, Medicare Advantage really does. Here's where the difference comes in. Medigap, you have to pay your $175 a month on average for Part B. You have to pay $200, let's say, for Plan G, the supplement, and another $55 on average for Part D. Or that is up to more than $5,000 a year. Well, that's the rub. If you don't want to go into Medicare Advantage, you want to do Medigap, you're looking at about $5,000 a year. Medicare Advantage, you still have to pay the $175 for Part B, but the premium for Medicare Advantage is often zero. On average around the country, it's $18 a month, and then that includes a drug benefit. So unless you get a high deductible option for Medicare, Medigap, you're looking at about $3,000 difference between the two. It's a trade-off, of $3,000. If you're living on $30,000 a year or less, $3,000 a year is real money, and it's a real serious decision that you need to make. People think I'll start with Advantage for free. I'll only go back to traditional Medicare if I can't get what I need, and they don't realize that they're very possibly trapped. So I think we still have a few more minutes. I want to walk you through this new sort of study that we did with what we discovered. We discovered that we're being overpaid by billions. This new report that we put up last week is on our website at nhp.org, and it's up on our website. And we did this because we saw that there was a lot of work already done figuring out how much Medicare Advantage companies are overpaid. And there's literally dozens of studies that have looked at this, and they've each looked at one or two or a small handful of ways that they're overpaid. But we didn't find any place out there that was adding up all the ways that these companies are getting overpaid. And if you don't add it up, it's hard to know what to compare it to. So we did that, we added it up, and that's what our study is. And we came to the same conclusion that Kaiser did, which is that Medicare Advantage has never generated savings. And in fact, the opposite is true. So let me walk you at a high level through this. I recommend you look at the report, it's on our website. But the report says identified four key areas. The first is called upcoding. I said that they're paid on the average. While they're actually paid a little bit off of the average, they're paid more if you seem to be sick, and they're paid than the average. And so there's a whole industry around Medicare Advantage going out to capture more diagnoses that they can put on your chart that your doctor didn't want to put on your chart because it's not clinically important. But the MA companies go out and get a whole number of tools to add inactive diagnoses so that they can increase how much Medicare pays them. And we determined that that comes to about 5% more than what they should be paying, or 20 billion. So I just heard an interview with Senator Berkeley talking about MA companies being paid $15 to $30 billion more a year than they should be. And I think he was only referring to this one feature, which, as you'll see, is actually the smallest of our numbers. So there's 20 billion. That's actually newsworthy by itself. Then there's this thing called favorable selection, where aside from the upcoding notion, here's where they're paid for average people, but they do things to attract healthier than average. The gym club membership. My 94-year-old mother-in-law in Florida, she doesn't care about a gym club membership. It's not going to attract her, So they do these extra things that are going to attract healthier people because they're paid in advance for average people. And that amounts to more than 10% beyond what they should be paid. Another $45 billion that we think they're getting because it's called favorable selection. They're attracting healthier people. And there's a whole suite of these sort of weird benchmarks and bonuses that they get that I won't spend the time tonight unpacking, but there's a pretty good consensus among a lot of groups that these things don't add any real value. But they add another $25 billion to what they're overpaid. If you add just these three factors, you're at around $100 billion that these companies are stealing, in my mind, legally, from us. And then this last notion of reduced utilization, they're paid, that's a terrible phrase, but that's what it's called. These companies are paid, their benchmarks, their capitation rates are established as if the companies were removing all financial barriers to care. They're paid as if there are no co-pays and deductibles, but there are co-pays and deductibles. And co-pays and deductibles keep us from getting health care. So they're paid as if there weren't any. They're paid as if we're getting the kind of health care that we would be getting if there weren't co-pays and deductibles. But there are co-pays and deductibles, so they shouldn't be paid that way. In other words, they're essentially paid as if they're giving us a Medigap policy, which they are not. And if you're not in MA, you gotta pay for your own. This adds up to another $36 billion. So if you look at all of this together, we believe it comes up to about $140 billion. And that's just the legal stuff. That's not counting fraud and all the other stuff they do. This is just looking at the legal, perfectly legal things that they're doing. What would you do with $140 billion? What would you do? So let's look at this. So I gave a low estimate of 88 billion, and I said maybe as high as 140, and I think it's actually higher than that. How much money is that? You know, it's hard to figure out. Is $140 billion a big number when you're looking at a federal balance sheet? It's, you know, these numbers are like hard to get your head around. So how much do we spend on Part B premiums? You know, I said that we have to spend about $170 for your Part B premium. Every senior and person with disability just about spends $170 a month. It's taken out of their Social Security checks. You don't notice it maybe, but you're spending $170 a month to get Part B. Well, if you add that all up, that comes to $131 billion across the United States every year, which is less than what the Medicare Advantage companies are legally taking from us. So we think we're paying our Part B premiums because that's the only way the federal government can afford to provide us with a Part B benefit. You know, that's the only way they can afford to pay for our outpatient care and the other things that are in Medicare Part B. So we don't want to pay it, but we pay it thinking that's the only way we can get paid. Well, you were actually funding, if you think about it, if you look at the math, we're indirectly funding the overpayments to the corporations. If we weren't overpaying the corporations, what would you do with $140 billion? Well, one thing I would want to do is I would look at eliminating the premiums for Part B and adding that $170 onto the Social Security checks for every senior and person with disability. Wouldn't that be nice? It's not the only choice we have. The federal government pays $126 billion every year for the Part D, the drug benefit, to run that. Again, very controversial getting that passed, and it's less than what the Medicare Advantage companies quietly slipped under the radar. Or what if we put a $5,000 maximum out-of-pocket amount in traditional Medicare? You know, I said that people buy Medigap or go into Medicare Advantage because they want a way to mitigate the risks of the 20% co-insurance and the $1,600 hospital spin that could easily quickly bankrupt you. Well, what if we put a limit on how much you had to spend out of your own pocket in traditional Medicare? And I'd like to see that limit be zero, nothing out of pocket. But if you put it at $5,000, that would cost, according to the Urban Institute, that would cost way less than what these other numbers are. It would cost $39 billion, a fraction of pittance compared to what we're having taken away from us. What about these other benefits? Dental, hearing, vision, things that I'll bet everybody in this room wants to have access to. You want these things. It's very popular stuff. And we could easily pay for dental, hearing, and vision, not just in Medicare, but for everybody in Medicaid too, if we stop this nonsense. So, you know, we need to stop this. I want to, you know, leave sort of with some reasons for hope, because there actually is a lot of reason for hope, especially on this issue. So let's look back just to January 2022, you know, a little more than a year ago, but not quite 2 years ago. And there's this letter that was widely adopted from both chambers and both parties in Congress. Both chambers, the Senate and the House, and both parties massive signatures, I'll tell you in a minute, saying we want to express our strong bipartisan support for the Medicare Advantage program. In 2022, less than 2 years ago, 63 senators, bipartisan, signed a letter in support like this, and 346 United States representatives, members of Congress, signed that letter. 63 senators, 346 congresspeople. Well, a few of us did quite a bit of advocacy work over the past year. Mainly, I give credit, a shout out to Wendell Potter and Diane Archer and Alex Larson, and a few other folks that started really working this issue. And in 2023, only 61, not 63, signed in the Senate signed it. And I'm pointing this out to tell you that Senator Padilla, your senator, one of your two senators, was one of the senators that even this year still signed it, even though fewer signed it this year. So you may want to help educate Senator Padilla about why you're not happy about that support for Medicare Advantage. In the House, that's where the real gain happened. They went from 346 representatives signing it, as they have for several years now, down to 0, thanks to the work of these folks that I was mentioning. Nobody, that there a letter from the House in support of Medicare Advantage, thanks to the hard advocacy work of people getting Congress to understand these problems. Nobody, letter didn't come out. And in fact, instead, the first time ever, 70 members of the House signed a letter instead demanding that Medicare Advantage companies be held accountable in all sorts of ways. And you should be proud. 3 of your U.S. representatives signed it. So my point is, educate your senators. You know, educate Senator Padilla, and Butler wasn't there at the time, of course, as you know. But you know, they both need to be aggressively educated about this. And that educational campaign, I know it feels hopeless, right? You know, the insurance industry, these big lobbyists, you know, they're not gonna listen to us. Well, here's proof that yeah, educating people in Congress does work. You know, do a campaign educating these folks, because there's, you know, get them to not sign the letter, get your senators to not sign the letter when it comes out, when they try to get it again in 2024, get them to, you know, start working them now to not sign that letter in 2024, and the House, you know, start working people to try to get more people to sign the letter calling for accountability. Really important. I think we can make a lot of progress. Wow. Oh, good. Somebody's there.
Yeah. I'm here. So Ed, can you take some questions?
Sure.
Okay, so we're limited in time, so no speeches, okay? Real questions, and we'll do like 3 or 4. Is that fair? Because it's getting pretty late, Brad. Okay?
We got a late start, so works for me.
Okay, over here. So how do you work? Wait a minute. I'm gonna have to bring it.
Yeah, it's a long way from California to St. Louis.
Yeah.
It's really loud.
We're gonna have you stand here, I think, so the computer can hear you. Go ahead and ask your question. Yeah, you can speak on the mic.
How does one work with a relative that is on a Medicare Advantage plan? Do you just let it be? Because, I mean, I've been working on this forever, so I know a lot of what you said. And it feels like I'm being unfair to them to tell them you've made the wrong choice. You might be saving a lot of money now, but, or do we just keep quiet? What do you do with your friend who has picked Medicare Advantage plans?
Yeah, so 2 things. First, to probably try to figure out if there actually is an alternative for them. So, you know, try to some way maybe figure out if they can get Medigap. You know, there's more than one kind of Medigap. I mean, Medigap that I told you costs, you know, a couple $1,000. Or there's a high deductible Medigap in a lot of states that is actually less expensive. So first figure that out. But second, you're just trying to have the discussion and see if you can educate them. One of the more compelling ways that I've found to talk about it is to say, well, you know, you're gambling with your health and with your insurance. So, you know, you're making this bet that, you know, that you're going to save, you know, this money up front. but you're making the bet that then when you actually, get sick, that they're gonna let you go to the doctor or hospital you wanna go to, or that when you do go, that they're gonna pay for it. And that you're not gonna get stuck with it, or that if they do let you go and they pay for it, that your co-pays and deductibles aren't gonna get up as high as that $8,000 out-of-pocket maximum. So you're making a gamble. You're gambling that they're gonna let you get the care you want at all. And, do you really wanna do that with your health? So, they don't realize they're making that gamble. They don't realize they're taking that chance. Does that help? Sounds like we've both been trying,
Okay,
Go
The,
ahead.
the most compelling thing to me, with people, what I tell them is about the fact that they think they can get Medigap. And learning that they're not guaranteed that they can get Medigap is usually a big deal for them. It's like, oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, my question is, I have regular Medicare, but I also have a supplemental Blue Shield policy that I pay a portion for every month. Is it necessary for me to have that supplemental plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessary if you have a bad supplemental plan, but if you have traditional regular Medicare and you don't get a supplemental policy, and you get sick, the co-pays and deductibles can quickly bankrupt a lot of people. So, but there are a variety of supplemental policies out there, and it might be worth you looking around. The two ways to look around at the supplemental policies are not talk to a broker. I do not recommend talking to a broker. Instead, the two ways that I think are pretty good is, you can just go online to medicare.gov and look through the Medigap policies. It's all there. I think it's not that hard to navigate, so you can do that. Or if you want to kind of just, a lot of us like to talk to somebody about it, and it's easier to kind of just think through and actually ask a question and get an answer and have a conversation. If you want to do that, there's a thing called SHIP, State Health Insurance Accessibility Program. I don't know. Actually, I have a slide of it. I did make a slide of it. Hang on here. Hang on, I'll show you exactly. Oh, check it out. I don't have it. But yeah, look up the California SHIP, SHIP. Look up the California SHIP, SHIP, and it's a federally funded program that has people in every state. That's run by the state, and people in each state, volunteers in each state, are trained and have no conflicts of interest. They don't get a commission. They can just help you. They're trained to educate you about this stuff and answer your questions. And the SHIP programs vary from state to state. Some of them are not probably as reliable and as good as others, but my understanding from folks I know who have worked in the SHIP in California is that that's a really good one. That's a really good one. So so yeah, you use the SHIP.
yes. Come on up.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you for an excellent talk and really informative.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah, my question is, what about the advantage plans for nonprofits, specifically in California? Kaiser is a big one. I'm not Medicare age yet, but I've been a Kaiser member for years. Well, pretty happy, but I haven't been that sick at all. So, a little bit. Are they as bad as for-profit advantage plans? You had Kaiser up there, you showed, on your slide, what you were showing the advantage plans. So do you have any knowledge of if that's as bad as all the other ones or anything?
So I don't have an answer to that, and no one in the United States has an answer to that, other than people working within Medicare. But even they don't have much of an answer to that. The individual plans do not release the information about the thing. They don't release information about how much they reduce or increase death rates. They don't release information about how many prior authorizations they deny. There's no plan-specific information about denial rates. There's no plan-specific information about how much they delay your healthcare. There's no information about who they do and don't pay for. There's none of that information that you would want to assess important things is publicly available anywhere in the country. So less important things, you know, like how quickly do they answer the phone, that stuff gets reflected in the star ratings that Medicare releases. So there is a measure of quality, but there are the measures that are nice, but are not. I mean, I want to know if they're going to kill me. You know, I want to know if the Medicare Advantage company is trying to kill me because they don't want me when I'm sick. You know, I want to know that kind of stuff. And that there is, you know, that information should be available, and it's not. So, do I think the nonprofits are probably better than the for-profits? I don't know. Maybe, probably, logically, it would seem like that. But we all know that the non-for-profits have similar pressures to the for-profits. The for-profits that are publicly traded, of course, have quarterly returns that get reported to Wall Street in their stock prices, but the nonprofits are just as motivated to, you know, to turn a buck and to be profitable as they're, or have retained earnings. You know, the nonprofits in many places are, you know, growing, you know, and building buildings and doing all sorts of things that, you know, you would think require profits. They, you know, it's the main difference between nonprofit and for-profit is a tax status and whether or not you have to pay various types of tax. But it doesn't change the fundamental business pressures. It doesn't change the idea that you're capitated ahead of time, prepaid ahead of time, and that every dollar you spend on healthcare is a dollar that comes out of your retained earnings, part of your profits. So it would seem like nonprofits are probably better, but there's no publicly available information that really gives you meaningful comparisons to say whether Kaiser, for example, is better or worse than the others. I'm sure if you ask Kaiser, they will tell you that they're spectacular. And I don't have anything against Kaiser. That's not meant as an insult to Kaiser. You know, I have friends that work there that are great people. This is not an attack on Kaiser by any means, but I'm just saying, if you want me to tell you, is Kaiser, do I have any evidence that Kaiser's actually better on the important things than any of the others? There's no, I can't tell you the answer to that.
We have-
Nobody that the United States is able to either.
We have one last question.
Thank you, doctor. I came just to listen to you, what you had to say. I must confess, I am a Medicare agent.
Ah,
And it depends on the Medicare agent to give the right information to the people, and to be honest. If I have clients that I think that they have a serious health condition, I would say, well, this will not work
this is
for
not
you.
a question.
No.
It's not a question. You don't get to make a speech.
No, I'm not. The question is, here in Southern California, we're better off than other rural places. But what is the proposal you have? I thought that you kind of were going to give a proposal on single payer.
Sign up for traditional Medicare.
Well, I would be delighted to talk to all you all about single payer. That wasn't what I was asked to talk about, so I didn't, you know, we had plenty to talk about without even talking about that, but this all fits together. If I could maybe take a moment on that. So obviously, I think, you know, what I'm painting a picture.
Laura,
that's pretty-
please sit down.
I am not a Medicare agent.
We are not having this discussion. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Okay, on your tables, you've got action item we've got. It's is Medicare at risk? And President Biden unfortunately has nominated Demetrius, who's I'm gonna mess up his name, it's a Greek name.
Yeah.
And he to be on the board, and he was recently challenged by Elizabeth Warren. And we don't want to see this guy put in place on the Medicare board. So the action item has got our two senators and President Biden's contact information to call him and try to dissuade him from nominating this man. Do you have anything to say about that? Did you hear me?
I don't think I heard. Oh.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, It's like in my contact, some people say my name, I don't know.
Okay.
So, yes, I do have something to say about that. So yeah, Medicare is supposed to have two trustees that are looking out for our best interests. That's, make sure that it's fiscally sound. Two people appointed by Congress. And we haven't had one for like 6-7 years or something, so they can obviously function without one. But for the first time, for a long time now, we're supposed to be getting to, and there's one Republican and one Democrat. And one of them, the Democrat actually has a history of being, I think it's the Democrat, I'm not actually sure. But one of them is currently on the board of Clover Health, which runs a Medicare Advantage company. He gets $100,000 a year or more, according to Senator Warren, for being on the board of Clover Health. Well, if you're getting paid at all, but certainly 6 figures to be on the board of a company, it's your obligation, it's your legal fiduciary obligation to look out for the best interests of that company. So here's a candidate who is legally bound to look out for the Medicare Advantage company profits, who Congress is thinking of appointing to be our stewards in charge of making sure that Medicare is run in a fiscally intelligent way. That should just be like straight out of the court illegal, that you can't have somebody with that conflict of interest. And Senator Warren asked him repeatedly, so are you going to step down from your position at Clover, at least temporarily end your experience of getting paid $100,000 or more a year to do the opposite of what this job is supposed to do as a trustee for Medicare? And he never said that he would. So why would we appoint somebody to be in charge? We're literally, almost literally, metaphorically, it's putting the fox in charge of the hen house. I mean, that's just like the worst possible, it's unbelievable that they're actually thinking about it and close to approving it. So yeah, if you can call your senators and say, hey, this guy, do not appoint this person. This is a terrible idea. This is the exact opposite of the person we need. You can't count on that person to be our defendant. He's being paid by our opposition. He's being paid by these kinds of outfits that are taking at least 100, maybe 140 or more $billion a year out of the Medicare funding. That is not the person that we want to have in charge of as one of the trustees.
Okay,
so yes,
let's give that a big round of applause. And just so you know, everybody got a flyer with that information, so they're all wound up to do it. And we're gonna let you go to bed, and we're gonna go on with our meeting. Thank you very much. Okay, now let me see if I can get my meeting back on.
Can I just say, I Googled that ship thing he was talking about. For anybody that can't find it, it's called shiphealth.org.
Okay.
shiphealth.org. And in California, it's called ICAP.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's right over by the airport, and they're volunteers, the people that do the health. Oh, okay. Thanks.
Okay, I'll be up and running here in a minute. Okay, before the meeting, we went through that whole drama with the PowerPoint. We were talking about the budget. I talked about that. And then the next step is we need a motion to adopt the consent calendar. Jim Bass voted. I need a second. Gary seconded it. So if you're a member, a paid member, and you're in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Okay, we did that. We got that out of the way. And we did our speaker. And so we're on to committee reports. So there are some ladies who are going to pass out a lot of information to you about the Capistrano Unified School District. And did one of you want to talk about it, or should I talk about it? Good. Come on up, Andy. Here we go. Okay, there's your. Yeah. Mike is not on. Can you hear me? Yeah. They are on. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Don't you just love technology? Yeah, I'm here to talk to you about what's going on at Capo Unified School District Board. How many of you were at the last board meeting at Capo? Okay. At that time, one of their board members introduced a potential policy that she was going to bring to the board at this month's meeting that was about parental notification. If I get anything wrong here, please correct me. Moms for Liberty. How many know about Moms for Liberty? Yeah. They were there at that meeting, and of course, they're 100% for this. This particular policy is a danger for students and a danger for teachers. It puts another level of responsibility on teachers that could lead to possible liabilities if they don't recognize something. Also, students that are LGBTQ could be outed to their parents. And I have a story to tell you about that. And those of you that were at the last Capo meeting will know this story. You heard it too. A teacher from another state got up and explained that he was asked by an administrator at the school to check on a particular student and let the administrator know on behalf of the parents, let the administrator know if this student had tendencies towards being LGBTQ or something of that nature. And the teacher said that he and another teacher were responsible for this and notified the administrator that they did see some things that they thought were maybe effeminate or something. I'm not sure exactly, but they ended up telling the parents. The parents ended up torturing the child. Do you remember this, Judy? We were shocked. The parents tortured the child. The child was taken from the home and put in foster care, and the parents were put in jail. So this is not a good thing that children will be outed. I have 2 gay children. I don't want this to happen to my children, to be outed to people that they might not trust. So I don't think it's a good idea. And I really, my main thing is to get people at the meeting tomorrow night at Capo School District. And on the back of the agenda tonight is all the information that you need to know about this. You can Google, or there's actually some websites at the bottom that will tell you more about Moms for Liberty. And there are 2 options: go to the meeting and speak, or go to the meeting and just sit there and applaud for the speakers, or you can email all of the legislators or the board members on the back of this agenda. Kathy?
Yeah, I'd just like to add one thing. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I'm pretty loud. The policy as proposed looks very innocuous. It does not mention anything about gender. It just says if parents and teachers are concerned about mental health issues, they must inform the parents. This is not necessary as a board policy. That is already California educational policy. So this is a Trojan horse, I would say, to introduce the idea that if your child shows some tendency, you must, as a teacher, inform the parent. So don't be fooled by the innocuous language of what the policy is proposing. It can be amended, it is redundant, and it is unnecessary.
Thank you. Gary?
For those who were at the capital meeting last month, you probably saw this, but the board tries to say, don't applaud, we're trying to get through all of this. So the people on our side ended up doing things like waving their hands or tapping their fingers to show support. And then the other side, we're having people silently stand up when their speaker came and then sitting back down. So we may want to consider those type of things when we go to the meetings.
Also, just a couple of things. If you do go to the meeting, remember you have options. You can send an email too. But if you do go to the meeting, we ask everyone to wear purple so you can identify who your friends are. And it's a very warm, comfortable feeling when you're there to know that there's a lot of people there supporting you. Arrive early because they expect a crowd and an agitator crowd, by the way. Called the traveling circus. Do not engage with people, be polite and professional, and don't give them a sound bite or anything, any photo to use against you or the teachers. Signs are not allowed in the boardroom, nor are flags. Dress accordingly. I mean, you can't bring a flag in, they'll have flags in the boardroom though. Dress accordingly. Some people may be outside because there's an overflow. And maintain situational awareness at all times. The district is planning to have a significant amount of security there, so. Okay. So, but do try and go. We went last time and. Okay.
I just wanted to say something. I'm a retired teacher. And I'm still in the classroom. I still sub and I go to board meetings and I do all this. My only thing is if Moms of Liberty are gonna be there, because we have this, I taught in Huntington Beach. We had people showing up in our district at our board meetings because they didn't like the way it was being run. The key is to get the people that don't want it in there first, because there's only so many seats.
Right.
So if you don't get there before Moms of Liberty, you won't get in. If it's that much of a hot ticket. So that's what we learned, is we learned that we had to flood. We literally got there like 3.5 to 4 hours.
Okay, I'm gonna stress to be, I know, but there's one other thing. Yes, you need to get there early, and they did allow everyone to speak last time, and they had 80 speakers. We were there an hour, they cut the time down to a minute. So if you are going to plan to speak, make sure you have a prepared speech that you can reduce from 3 minutes to 1. Okay, thank you. Okay, Andy. Okay. And if any of you are feeling a little flummoxed by LGBTQ AI plus, there's a little thing at the bottom that will give you the translation. Okay. Okay. The main thing is to show up and participate, and we really appreciate that. And this is all part of our focus groups that work with local communities, because we cover multiple school districts in multiple cities. Okay, moving on. Anne, where are you?
Hi, so we actually have 415 because members goes 2 paid today, and I think several paid tonight. I just want to reiterate that if you pay now, or if you're a new member or a renewing member, your membership will carry over through all of 2024. I also had a couple questions tonight. Again, I want to explain the difference between sustaining and membership. Membership is a $30 or $50 per family that you pay as a member of the club. It's paid every year. It's a calendar year that starts in January to December. But if you're In October, we start to carry them over, so you kind of get a couple extra months in there, if you're new. A sustaining membership is not a membership, it's a donation. It's a donation that you can set whatever amount you want. It can be once a year, it can be once a month, and it goes on forever until you stop it. So some people were sustaining members and confused that with being a member of the club. So I wanted to explain the difference. Are there any questions on the difference? Yes.
Yeah, I thought we took every reference to sustaining member off the website.
Yes, we did.
Sustaining
Yes.
Yes, we did.
But people had questions tonight. That's why I'm answering them now.
Sustaining donation.
It's a donor.
Right.
It's a donor, right?
Yeah.
Thank you,
Right.
Heather.
Okay.
Good information.
Okay, also, as far as thank you for bringing all we had a ton of Thanksgiving things to take the families forward. Thank you very much for that. And in the middle, I'm doing this for my ease because I'm going out of the country for a couple weeks. In the middle of your table is a spreadsheet because we're going to be adopting children for Christmas at Families Forward. And on this, it has a name, your information, and if you would like to buy a gift, which usually is around a $30 gift. If you would like to give a gift card, or if you'd like to do both. So because people have different things. If you could pass this around your table, if you're interested in fill it out now, that means it'll save me a lot of work running around when I get back the end of November and I have a week to do this. So please just pass it around. Nothing's required. And either hand it to me from your table or I'll leave it on your table and I'll go around and pick it up at the end of the meeting. Last year, I think we took on something like at least 10 families. Yes.
When do you want the gift spot? Next meeting?
I will contact you because usually people are bringing gifts to my house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I won't be here for the next meeting. That's one of the issues. So, I'll be in Japan. So, usually I have people bring the gifts to my house in Lake Forest, right? Or I can come to your house and pick them up. Okay. Well, Amazon is a different thing because if you sign up for that, I'll let you, I usually send out an email explaining everything because I need we need receipts for things like clothing in case they have to return it. So I'll send out an email explaining it all to you about what type of gifts and how to do that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ann, and thank you for taking care of everybody. Okay, fundraisers. Da 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 da. And you can each have a microphone.
Oh, yay. Good evening, Canyon Dems.
Hey.
Good to catch you. How you doing?
Ann mentioned the sustaining donor program, which is something that we in the fundraising committee take care of. And I want you to see that we now have 91 sustaining donors, not sustaining donors. And we've raised a total of $11,713 up so far. Yay, sustaining donors. And we had a wonderful event to thank our sustaining donors because we brought in so much money. We were able to have a little celebration. And there's my wonderful team with Duke. The miniature donkey, we played donkeys at the farms. And you could have been there if you were a sustaining donor, but we had lots of people who came. We had a great time. We had charcuteries and we had wine and beer. We had a great time. I forgot I got a move. Okay. Okay. The next one. Yes. So our Carnival is coming up and it's going to be the 28th of October. And we'd love to have you sign up for that on the website. We have a really good time and it's reasonable, $30. And again, we'll have beer and wine and we'll have wonderful snacks and good stuff. And it's at the home of our wonderful Melora.
Cal and I throw good parties, so it's
They do. And they decorate like crazy. You should see their home. Anyway, so sign up for that. You can do it right now on your phone if you want to. Just go right on Act Blue. So that's coming up. Then we want to remind you, we want to remind you that our O'Neill brunch this year will be on December 9th. And I need to get that moving. Oh. And we are looking for donations for our opportunity drawings, gift cards, anything for our wine wall. And
Trips to Hawaii.
a trip, yeah, if anybody has a trip to Hawaii that they want to donate, that'd be great, that'd be great. We have some.
I don't know what you're
stuff
laughing
already. She's serious. So, no, we've got some really good stuff now. We have a laptop, thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
We have, signed books by some of the people that have come and spoken to us. I was at an event with Jamie Raskin last weekend, and we have 2 books signed by him, because Louise donated hers as well, so we'll use those for 2 different things. We got some really good stuff, but we put together all kinds of baskets based on the things that we get, and we'd love to have you help us out by donating something. If you've been to the event before, you know the kind of stuff that we do, so keep us in your mind for that. Also, we're gonna have a program this year. Again, we're gonna be selling ads. We've already sold the back cover. Hooray for the Yaris's. But we want to do either half page, full page, business card size. And it doesn't have to be an ad for a business. If you've had a particularly wonderful year with your spouse and you want to say how happy you are to be with them, or if you have a kid who's doing something wonderful and you want to acknowledge that you've got a terrific kid, or if you have, yeah, if you're a campaign and you want to make sure that we know that you're running, that'd be another way.
Thank you for my trip to Hawaii.
Yeah. Yes, to thank people for giving a trip. And I want to remind you that our meeting next month is not the 3rd week, it's the 2nd week because of Thanksgiving. It's on the program, but I wanted to make sure I mention it because sometimes I forget to read the bottom.
In the rush at the beginning.
I know. And now we're going to do our opportunities.
Did you do the wine wall?
I said the wine.
No, I wasn't listening.
I'm
Sorry. I know, it's difficult.
Okay, our first drawing is for a cute sign, but the important thing is it's got a free ticket to the Halloween party. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
What
sorry?
time is the brunch?
Oh, wait, 11 and 1.
Yeah, 11. Thank
that what
you.
it is?
We have to get there so early. I never.
I
know
don't know what time it really is.
11 to 1. Okay. So. yeah,
Thanks,
sure.
Barbara.
All right, here we go.
Okay, now I'm gonna attempt this because I just got my second eye done for cataract surgery. Let's see how it goes. Read it. 250537. I'm so happy. There it is. Oh my God. Jack, I told you when you came in, I throw good parties, so I want to see you there. And we would encourage you to wear a costume. You don't have to, though.
But we'll
It might be scarier if you don't. I don't know. Okay, that was good. All right.
We have a singing nun who comes to us. You gotta see it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is another free ticket to our Halloween party.
Okay. Did you? No. I got it. I'm gonna show up again and read another one. Okay, it's 250557. 557. Barbara comes every month and she donates tickets every month and says, I don't want to win anything because anything that's been paid for, but because we're basically doing the party for free. Barbara finally won, and thank you so much.
Yay,
For all of your
Barbara.
generosity. Okay, and the last one, we do have like the little person over here. It's over here. I'll put it down. Thank you. This is actually the party pooper. This is the party pooper prize. Whoever doesn't want us to come to the party, they can stand with their own bottle of wine. And actually, this is a very nice bottle of wine here. So let's see what we got. All right, I'm gonna read another one, and I'm gonna go home and brag. Okay, 250. Hang on, my hair's coming out here. 250558. 558.
It was me, so you can't.
Oh, Barbara. You're lucky tonight because I mixed them up like crazy. I really mixed them too. Okay. All right, here's my last one. Almost. Hopefully, 250550.
Yeah.
And we had a return. We would love it, we would love it if you came to the party, but drink that anyways if you can. Come on, talk to us.
So we had a return.
Oh.
Unfortunately, our winner is working that day and can't come.
Oh,
So
I'm
we
so
need
disappointed.
need to draw another.
All right, here we go. Thanks for giving it back, Jeff.
Thank you, Jen.
All right. I get to show up again.
She's so excited.
I had
about
this
the cataracts.
cataracts.
And we had the cutest.
Oh, he's pretty cute, yeah. We got the same one. Okay, 714347. Yeah, I had two different ones. Nobody got that one. I had two different roles. Nobody got that one.
7347, that's fine.
Somebody got it.
Oh, we got one.
Got it?
You have it?
Did you get, see there? Okay, very good.
Thank you.
And I hope you can make it. We have it. What's kind of fun is a lot of people come and they dress up, and it's so interesting because it's sort of like a psychological experiment because people act differently when they're in costume and people treat you differently. And it's kind of nice we get to know each other on a little closer basis because we're acting all silly and it's fun. So if you want to get to know people better, that's the place to come. So thanks very much, everybody. Okay, and then, we're not gonna have a report from the field team, because I'm not ready. So, we will be back for sure. Okay, plans for future speakers. Can I just do it, Barbara, or do you want to?
Well, okay. Okay, yeah, November, Nancy Watkins, who's running for Orange County Board of Education, as we did her postcards this evening. She's running against Ken Williams, who's really disgusting. So we really want to we're trying to get her in early because I think you all know March 5th is one and done. She's not going on to the November election. So we want to get behind her. And then for the brunch, Betty Yee, who was our state treasurer for 8 years, and currently she is the vice chair of the Democratic Party, so she has a lot to offer. And she is running for governor in 2026. So our club will probably have a future governor speak at our brunch because we had Eleni Kanalakis speak in 2019 and she's also running in 2026. So it's going to be interesting. And then we're also having Josh Newman. He is state senator in District 29 and he'll be added to the festivities. Josh is a lot of fun. I don't know if you know, he has an ice cream truck. And maybe he'll bring his ice cream truck to our event. And also, our committee is working on speakers for next year. So if you have any ideas, topics, or people you've seen speak that you think are good, please reach out to us. You've seen some of our committee here, Judy, Ellen, Marion. So we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.
Okay, there's a lot of papers on your desk, on your tables. Please take home the agenda because on the back is the information about the school board. Take home the stuff about the Medicare that you're supposed to follow up on. So gather it all up, take it home, so that I don't have to go around and, oh, I forgot, we have one more comment. Please, I forgot, I promised an announcement from a member who worked so hard and has a little business, and we want to let her make an announcement.
Thank you. I have business and I will be at the Mission Viejo gift goodie boutique. It's awesome. They have tons of cool Christmas stuff. I'll be there with my jacket. And I'll be in booth 14. Please stop by and say hello. or come by, get a jacket, and I give you a Dems discount. It's November 18th, it's a weekend before Thanksgiving.
And it's here.
Okay, gather up those papers, folks.